If you ask me how long we've been down here, I wouldn't know. We don't see the sun, and nobody seems to have a watch. It doesn't matter anyway. We don't have anywhere to be. For all we know, there isn't anywhere left to be. The surface has surely been overrun with death and decay by now. There are 6 of us left. Until recently, there were 7. Her screaming has stopped now, and I feel relief. It was hard to sleep with those agonizing screams and banging on the steel door. I huddled in my blankets, and I look around at the other survivors. 4 men and a woman, all of us unkempt and haggard. At one point we all worked here, but since the accident it's become our prison. There is a painfully low amount of food in a pile in the center of the room, so we all can keep eye on it and make sure nobody's taking more than they're allowed per day. There's enough food for maybe 3-4 meals. None of us want to think about it, so we just stare. There are no beds, just piles of blankets and paper that make crude sleeping areas. There's one bathroom at the far end of the complex, and it has running water. There are 3 other rooms we used to work in, filled with computers and lab equipment that has accumulated a fine layer of dust. We still have power somehow, so all the security cameras and lights will work. Unfortunately, none of the computers work because they've been shut and locked as per emergency protocol. Any contact with the outside world is non-existent. We worked for the military doing basic chemical research. Somewhere along the line, a chemical was leaked, and the results were fatal. People who come into direct contact with the chemical succumb to vomiting, mild at first, then intense until they had nothing left to excrete except their own blood. Nobody lasted more than a couple hours once they had touched the chemical. It also spread through saliva and bile and blood, so those with the misfortune of coming into contact with even a single drop are doomed. We had to toss that woman out because we caught her vomiting in the toilet. Now, she said she was pregnant, and that was just morning sickness, but you can't be sure. Her fiancé Barry tried to intervene, calling us animals. We clubbed him over the head, then tied and gagged him to a thick pipe at the end of the room. He strains against the bonds and screams into the gag occasionally, a fierce and wild look in his face, but it's for his own good, and for the good of everyone here. He might hurt somebody. He needs to be untied and fed eventually, but nobody seems to be the one who wants to do it. So we just sit and stare at the pile of food on the floor that gets lower and lower with each ration meal. He's another mouth to feed. We can't afford that. Everyone's on edge, twitchy and jumpy. Every movement is watched intently with suspicious and unrelenting eyes. Nobody talks anymore, but they just stare. We all know we're going to die. It's just a matter of time before hunger or the chemical gets us. It's in the back of all of our minds, and it is slowly eating away at our sanity. It's been a while now since the incident with the sick woman. Barry died while I was asleep, and our food supplies have run out. I draw the blanket over my head and drift into a fitful sleep, filled with hunger pangs. I'm awakened sometime later by the sound of whispers. I can see 3 members of our group huddled in a circle, and I identify them as Marcus, Daniel, and Eileen. My stirring causes them to look over, piercing me with savage eyes. They start moving towards me with a hungry look on their faces. Their intent hits me with a sudden burst of fear, and I scramble to my feet. Marcus grabs me by the collar, and it tears as I break loose from his grip. Daniel grabs me at my blanket, and I shove him hard against the third attacker, Eileen. They go sprawling, and I spring past them into the computer room, locking the door as fast as I can, dragging desks and cabinets. I make a crude and hopefully secure barricade. I see them banging themselves against the door and the windows, glaring at me with feral eyes. Something catches their attention down the hall, and they stop, heads snapping sharply in the direction of the bathroom. The fifth man, Jackson, must have finished using the facilities, unaware of the intent of the other three. He approaches and peers into the window with a puzzled look on his face. I tried to scream a warning, but all that escapes my throat is a hoarse rattle. It's too late anyway. His face is smashed against the glass by one of the others. I stare in horror as his face gets smashed into a pulp, each sound resounding through the room like a slow heartbeat. Then his body is taken away, and there is silence. They're gone for now, but they'll be back. Hunger gnaws at my stomach, and I frantically search for any morsel of food. With extreme luck, I managed to find a candy bar in one of the desk drawers, and I hungrily devour it, thanking whoever it was with the sweet tooth. My bliss soon passes, and the hunger returns. I try to sleep, but even the slightest sound jolts me awake. I have no idea how much time has passed. But suddenly, they were bashing on a blood-smeared window with a pipe. They're going to get in, and I will need to defend myself. There's an emergency axe in the corner of the room inside a glass case. I smash the glass and retrieve it, and it makes me feel a little better. My anxiety grows just like the spiderweb cracks on the window with each passing moment. After God knows how many attempts, the window finally shatters and the wild, barely human face of Marcus peers in. I sit in a chair with the axe out of view, and I just wait. I'm going to die anyway, so I might as well go out with a fight. He climbs in, followed by Eileen and finally Daniel. They approach slowly, in a mini skirmish line. When they get close enough, Marcus raises the pipe for a killing blow. Before he has time to bring it down, I swing that axe and I slice him in the chest. The pipe clatters to the floor and I spring to my feet. Eileen lunges at where I was and crashes into the now empty chair. I swing the axe, catching Daniel off guard and delivering a blow to the temple. His blood showers me, and it stings my eyes, blinding me. Eileen lunges for me again and tackles me around the ankles, sending me to the ground. I manage to hang onto my axe, and as her hands clasp around my neck, I slash her throat. The hands grip tighter, and for a moment, and then loosen, and her lifeless body crumples on top of me. Pushing her off, I stagger towards Marcus, gagging from the strangling I had just received. He is still alive, dragging himself through his own blood towards the falling pipe. I stick my foot on his back, and I swing that axe into his skull. My heart is racing. I stumble backwards, and I'm grabbed by hand from behind. The axe is wrenched from my hand, and I feel a sharp prick in my neck. I lose all muscle control and slump to the floor. Through blurred vision, I see men in hazmat suits all around me. I hear the sound of their voices, but they seem distorted and far away. Then the man nearest to me speaks, and the words register into my brain with horror. "The experiment has gone on long enough," he says, before I sink into total darkness.